What's going on, everyone? So Brandon Ingram is likely playing his last season with the New Orleans Pelicans. There are talks that they're more likely than not going to trade him at some point, or maybe an extension works out, particularly if Brandon Ingram kind of gauging the situation and kind of now he's signed with Clutch. It's like, okay, well, maybe no one's willing to offer more than $30 million, or maybe the Pelicans kind of wait it out until the offseason, right? But they want to get some value. However, the Pelicans don't want to take on a bunch of long-term salary in a bunch of places. Like, they're not going to just trade Brandon Ingram just to trade Brandon Ingram, right? Because they want to stay the course. They believe that they're in a good position. However, if they can, they're essentially going to give Brandon Ingram away to a team that's willing to acquire him. Now, there are a lot of Laker rumors because he just signed with Clutch. But I don't know if he really goes to the Lakers. I don't even know if that's really the best fit for not only the Lakers, but Brandon Ingram, right? However, I do think he is going to end up getting traded. So, what teams make sense for him via the trade? One team that really pops to me is the Indiana Pacers, right? Indiana is struggling. They were just in the conference finals. They're not having a good season at all. Tyrese Haliburton has struggled mightily this season. He's starting to kind of look like his old self, but he's really struggling. Now, they got Pascal Siakam. One of the things that they've needed badly for some time is the three. They've really needed a guy at the three spot, that versatile wing that can, make plays, score the ball, do all those things. The Indiana Pacers kind of make a lot of sense in that regard. And they have some players, they have some pieces that could make some sense, some assets, right? So could they work out a deal, whether it's a straight, sort of singular trade between them and the New Orleans Pelicans, or do they have to get a third team involved? But there is a path to get there, right? You probably have to give up Mathurin or something like that, but I think you'd be okay in that regard. And then to just think you could have a Tyrese Haliburton. The beauty of Brandon Ingram is he essentially could slot, essentially 2 through 4 if you need to, right? You got Siakam with Miles Turner. Yeah, you plug in Brandon Ingram into that. I think you're in really good shape if you're the Pacers, right? And are they the best team in the East? Are they the best team in the league? Probably not, but I think they're much more competitive, and I think that solves a big need for them. They really need Haliburton to kind of figure it out. But also, if he has a guy in Brandon Ingram who can kind of just be that, first or secondary scorer and scoring option, and a guy that just you can hand the ball to and he can just go get you buckets, that is something massive, right? Because the only guy that they really have when he's not cooking is Pascal Siakam, and then Mathurin and stuff like that. You got a guy here and there that, might have a good night, but for the most part, right, you're kind of so reliant on Pascal Siakam. But if you could get a guy in a Brandon Ingram, he slots in seamlessly, and now you have that guy who on many nights, if not most nights, can be your first offensive option, or if, Siakam's got it going and he's cooking, or, Brandon Ingram kind of be your secondary option, and now Haliburton can kind of just plug in and be the sort of Magic Johnson type, be that playmaker that he is, and then just kind of trickle in his points here and there, right? Just find his spots. And I just think that opens up so much more for the Indiana Pacers. At that point, they might be a team that could get back to the conference finals and maybe even give some teams some run for their money. Obviously, injury concerns with Brandon Ingram. And how much does he want, right? Because, and what would the Pelicans want, right? So there's a couple questions. So to first answer the Brandon Ingram question, I don't believe he's $40 million. I don't see a team paying him $40 million a year. Maybe $30 million, 25 to $30 million, right? Okay. But at, $40 million, I would be surprised if a team pays him $40 million, right? So if you can get him to re-sign, say 4 years, $120 million, I think that you're in good shape there, right? You're kind of in this spot where it's you got to do something. You got to pick a path. You got to pick a lane, right? You got Siakam, you got Tyrese Haliburton, you add in a Brandon Ingram, re-sign Miles Turner, right? I think at that point, you're probably in the best position possible. And then the other side of things would be, again, what would the Pelicans want? Luckily, you're in a position of leverage to an extent if you're the Pacers, because it's no one's lining up to trade for Brandon Ingram. There's only so many teams that could even need or want a Brandon Ingram, right? And who's going to pay him even the 30 million, right? Like, he wants to go to a team that can compete and win. You're in the Eastern Conference. Again, you're on a team that just was in the conference finals that with you could probably get back there again. The Pelicans aren't in this like great spot of like, hey, you got to give us Miles Turner and Mathurin and all this and 3 firsts and all. Like, no, it's just like, dude, like we take on all the risk, right? Brandon Ingram could come here and just leave in the offseason, right? Like, but we'll take the chance. We'll take the they did the same thing with Siakam. Like, hey, we'll take the risk here, but it's got to be a reasonable trade. It's got to be something that makes sense for all sides, all parties. And I do think that, like, again, where else is Brandon Ingram going to go? Right? Like, if you're the Pacers, you could just be like, hey, dude, like, if you find somebody to pay you $40 million, good luck, right? Worst case, you clear off some salary, right? You could rework Miles Turner or work out a sign and trade or do whatever if you want to kind of like retool around Siakam and Haliburton, fine, right? I think it's kind of a win-win, in my opinion, for the Pacers. I think they're in good shape either way, right? If it works, you'll re-sign Brandon Ingram. If it doesn't work, sorry, buddy, good luck to you, right? And you cleared off whatever salary you need to clear off, so now you can go make some plays. You can go make some moves. You have a couple key guys that could potentially be free agents in the offseason, right? And this free agency class period seems like it's going to be a much better one. Again, you look to keep Miles Turner, or maybe you kind of have like the year where, okay, like, unload Miles Turner, work out a sign and trade. Because again, the Pacers, they got to pick a path here, right? You're struggling, and you're in the Eastern Conference, and you're struggling, right? You're not having the expectations that you had this season. Part of it is just, Haliburton has not been great. Part of it is just, it's early. Guys kind of get in a rhythm, kind of make that push, kind of make that punch. Like, I'm not worried about the Pacers being like a playoff team or a playing team. Like, I definitely think that they'll be there, but like, that's not where they wanted to be. They wanted to be one of the top, 3 to 5 teams in the Eastern Conference and be in a position to where, hey, like, we could have a similar run that we had last season, right? You get the dominoes to kind of fall your way. Boom, we're back into the conference finals. You never know, right? Like, let's run it again, right? Let's see Boston in the finals or in the conference finals again and see if this time it can be different. And it might be. And if you get a guy like a Brandon Ingram, it definitely might be. I know Boston kind of just ran through the Pacers, but one, you match up so much better with an Ingram, right? Because now you got Siakam and Ingram, and you still go make another piece, you go get another trade or two, right? Like, I think if you're the Pacers, it's something you gotta at least consider. I've seen like talks about like, oh, what about a Jimmy Butler? Playoff Jimmy, and he might be good for the edge that this team needs, but I just think Brandon Ingram gives you more like long-term potential, right? Kind of retool some stuff. And I think it's more likely Jimmy Butler leaves than it is that Brandon Ingram leaves, right? So I'm not like super sold on like the idea of him and just his age and his injury history. Not that Brandon Ingram's had a great injury history, but at least he's younger, right? You'd have basically your core guys. You'd have like your main 4 for the next, at least 3 to 5 years, and then kind of just plug in and figure out, the 2 and then the depth and all that stuff, depending on the pieces that you end up trading and sending out, obviously, for a Brandon Ingram deal. And not just that, I mean, if you sign him to, say, a $30 million deal, you're automatically clearing $6 million off your books, right? So, boom, you clear $6 million, you work out a new deal with Miles Turner, you might be in good shape at that point. And defensively, I just think you'd be good, you'd be long, you'd be lengthy, you'd be versatile, right? You got Tyrese Haliburton, who can defend multiple positions. Brandon Ingram can defend essentially 1 through 5 on most nights, right? Pascal Siakam can defend 1 through 5 on most nights, right? Miles Turner is one of the better, rim protectors in the league. So I just think you have good athleticism, good defense, good scoring. You got that guy that could just go get a bucket. Pascal Siakam and Brandon Ingram are like your 2 main offensive weapons, and I think that works for you. I just think you're in a really good spot that point if you're Indiana. I think now you're one of the better teams potentially, maybe even a top 2 or 3 seed, 2 or 3 team in the Eastern Conference. I just think Indiana's got to do something, right? Like, they're not good enough as is, clearly. And it's just, I just think if you go get a guy in like a Brandon Ingram, you're just in a much, much better position personally. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion, so I pass the question on to you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? How do you feel? What are your thoughts? Do you think, yes, Brandon Ingram slots in beautifully. Whatever you got to do to make that work, make that work. And then you got, Miles Turner, Pascal Siakam, Brandon Ingram with Tyrese Haliburton, and then whatever's left to plug in at the 2, or maybe you go look to make another move to maybe get a better 2 or something like that, right? Like, I think that would be good shape. Or do you think, like, no, like, stay away from Brandon Ingram. It's not worth it. Like, stay the course, kind of figure it out. Things will kind of fall into place for Indiana. We've seen teams get to the conference finals before. I mean, Atlanta was in the conference finals a couple years ago, and they haven't been back to the playoffs. They're a play-in team every year, right? Like, it's not uncommon for a team to make the conference finals, especially in the East, make the conference finals and just not be able to get back there for another 5 seasons, right? And you don't want to see, like, Indiana, I'm sure, doesn't want that to happen, right? And it's not like Pascal Siakam is 22, 23, 25 even. Like, it's like, it's just, you got to kind of, again, pick a direction, in my opinion. But again, however you feel, whatever your thoughts are, I love to hear it. So let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. Helps me enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.